Hello YouTube, it's Time here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another manga review. Today we are going to continue our supernatural theme for this month, and we are going to be reviewing Godeath, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you're in the English manga anime community, you're going to probably not know what this is, and that's because this is not available in English. This is only available in Spanish. However, it's one of the things that I bought in Mexico this past summer, and I wanted to review it because one, it fit the theme, and two, because I think it's an interesting story, even if it's not my favorite. And so I think that, you know, having an English review for it might actually be kind of nice, because, you know, if people are interested, they can ask the publishers to get the license for it, right? So let's get into it. This is written by author Yuji Shiozaki, who is supposed to be the writer behind Ikitosen. Now, I say that, but I don't actually know anything about Ikitosen. I think it's like a girls fighting manga, or like a seinen series about women that fight each other. But I don't know anything about it. I think it was before my time. Most of the people that I've seen talk about it in the Spanish-speaking manga anime community on YouTube seem to be maybe not significantly older than me, but definitely like in their 30s, where I'm in my 20s. And so I assume that it's one of those things that it was like just right before my time, right before I got interested in manga and anime, right before, you know, things kind of became relevant to me. And it also seems to be a thing that really isn't talked about in the English anime manga community. So maybe it's kind of like Saint Seiya. It's something that became popular elsewhere, but not here in the States. I'm not too sure. But this is published by Kamite, as you guys can see right there. Now, Kamite is one of the only actually Mexican-owned and run manga publishing companies in Mexico. The other one that just kind of started is Manga Line Mexico. They're kind of relatively new. They haven't even released a book yet, but yeah, the other one, Panini, who is Kamite's biggest competitor, is from Italy. So yeah, but yeah, this is by Kamite, like I said. It has a dust jacket and then a like image on the cover. This is kind of more like Japanese style, even though this is probably larger than the Japanese edition. So yeah, the demographic here is seinen. And the genres here are ecchi, horror, fantasy, supernatural, vampire stuff. And there's kind of interesting emphasis on Christian mythology to an extent. And yeah, this does not currently have an adaptation. I don't think it would, because it's only 3 volumes. And it really isn't too much there to it. I mean, they could stretch it out into a 12-episode anime, but I don't really think they would do that. It seems more like it would do well as a movie or two. And yeah, the premise here is kind of complex. It's not really easy to kind of describe it. It's basically this kind of search for answers. This woman, Maria right here, seems to be a supernatural entity, and she is controlled, owned, you know, whatever you want to call it, by this organization called the Freemasons. And they're in this kind of shadow war with the Vatican, and she's trying to find out who she is and why she feels the way she does and who she is and kind of stuff like that. So she's trying to find answers because she knows there's something more to her, but she's not sure why, kind of, and that's kind of the best way I can describe it. And so she goes on this journey to find the guy that has the answers, who is her creator, the Saint Germain. I can't remember what his full title was. I think he was like the owner of Paris at one point or something. He's like a historical figure. But yeah, and that's basically the best way I can summarize this premise. And it's actually kind of difficult. It really doesn't encompass everything that is supposed to be here, but it also like is not encompassed enough, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's kind of difficult to kind of describe it. It's not really a very easy to define premise. But yeah, let's get into it. So the plot line here is actually pretty good. It's really simple but effective. She's just trying to find answers, and she has to go on a journey to find answers. And along that journey, she fights people from the Vatican. She joins forces with 2 people from the Vatican that defected, and that's basically it. And they kind of go on this slight, maybe not like journey of discovery, but kind of a journey of discovery. This kind of person that thinks of herself as a monster or a situation, or a person that causes situations that kill people, kind of finds her place and her family and becomes more human than people that call themselves human, right? And it's this kind of very normal kind of monster plot line, I guess, as she goes and searches for answers. And really, there's nothing much else to it. That's basically it. We kind of do unravel the mystery of who she is and where she comes from, and how she came to be, but it's very kind of basic and not very complex, and I think it's good. But this definitely plays out as one of those like one and done mid-tier level movies that are just kind of released in order to kind of fill the void between the big blockbuster event movies. And it just happens to be one that would probably be released in October during the supernatural horror thing going on that happens every year on Halloween. So yeah, I mean, it's not very complex, but it is enjoyable. I mean, this is something that I want to keep and definitely would read once or twice more, at least in the next couple of years. So yeah, I think it's good. It's just not like the greatest thing ever, but I mean, it can't really be the greatest thing ever in only 3 volumes, so you can't really expect too much out of it either. So yeah, now characters wise, basically the whole cast is female except for one person who is the Saint Germain guy, and I think it's interesting, it's cool, but most of these female characters are there not because the mangaka is trying to make a statement about feminine power or anything like that. It's not really that sort of thing. It's more just because Yuji Shiozaki likes drawing women, and so he's gonna make all of his characters women because this story is like a conduit for him to be able to draw hot chicks, and these hot chicks just happen to also be very like femme fatale-esque kind of characters, because that kind of fits the whole vampire theme of the story. So we have Maria, our main character, and she's a vampire homunculus kind of character. She basically is like OP as fuck, but she still has some general weaknesses, right? But because she's not vampire or homunculus, she has abilities of both, but minimal minimal deficiencies of both. So it's pretty interesting. She basically becomes this relatively unkillable character, and there's more to her because she doesn't really know she's a vampire, and so when she kind of figures it out, she kind of has to go on this journey of discovery. So that's what Maria is, right? And then we have 2 other characters. We have Dion, who is a full homunculus. She also seems to be like a younger character, where Maria is like, a 20-something-year-old. Dion would be like a high schooler. She's also a homunculus, and she's kind of like the rabid killer character, who has like some problems and is trying to find acceptance, kind of like the one kid in Soul Eater with the sword that's attached to them. I can't remember the name. The kid with pink hair and Soul Eater, whoever they are, right there, that character. She's kind of like that. And she's kind of interesting. I don't know where her name comes from. I think it's another historical figure from French history, but I'm not too sure. But she kind of ends up being the crux of Maria's humanity surfacing. So pretty cool. I liked her a lot. I really wish we had more time with her, but it's not that big a deal. Now we have Mika, who is a human. She is part of the Freemason organization, but was working with the Vatican, if I remember correctly. And she's completely human up until a certain point in the story. And she's kind of interesting as well. She kind of happens to be the sister character to Maria and the older sister to Dion. And they have a very nice, interesting dynamic between them. There's also these other, female characters that are kind of evil. They're kind of the villains. There's this lady from the Vatican who kind of manipulates Dion and Micah. And then we have the big bad of the whole thing, which is Saint Germain, who is a very interesting vampire guy. He happens to be the Lord of the Freemasons, if I remember correctly, but also has something to do with the Vatican. It's a very confusing kind of story. I don't really know where the Freemasons are and where the Vatican lies and what the difference between the two entities is, because it's not really relevant to the story. We just know that there's two opposing forces that kind of attack each other, and between them Maria stands, and so everyone kind of chases Maria because they want to have her as their weapon, right? And it doesn't really matter who is on what side. But Saint Germain is Maria's creator, and he's this kind of figure that no one knows is there until they find him, and then it all kind of unravels and it makes sense, like, oh, that's why that guy was there. You know, it's very interesting. It's very cool, very, very well done with his character. But he's very classically just like evil villain for the sake of evil. So there really isn't anything too special about him or any of the other characters really, but they are interesting enough. There's something about them that is compelling enough that is kind of nice, right? So yeah, in terms of world building, it's very minimal. It's very 18th century. It's kind of post-medieval, post-Renaissance, but pre-industrialism. So it's like essentially colonial times, which allows for this kind of like technological aspect to show up, like guns and good swords, but without having to be an urban fantasy in the modern sense. So I think that's why that was picked. And most of the world building here is based around setting up this Christian setting and this kind of Christian mythology based idea that really isn't accurate to actual Christian mythology, but rather just kind of vaguely borrows from it, right? So I mean, that's basically it for that. Now in terms of the art here, I think that's really what pushes this story past its like mediocreness, is that the art here is gorgeous. It's immensely beautiful, even if it's kind of ridiculous sometimes. And the amount of fan service in it is like insane, right? So let's see if I can find a good show of this. So here you go. Right off the bat, there's fan service there. There's a few color pages as well. Every book has color pages, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, here, look. Like, it's beautiful, but it's like a lot. It's very interested in this kind of exploration of the female form, I guess. But because it like goes further than that, the art is actually quite beautiful all around. But I'm trying to find one where it's not like boobies all over the place. Okay, so here, even the male characters look really, really nice. The setting is also really good. The manga can draw pretty nicely. I can't tell if you guys can see it, but there you go. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Finally, something that I can show you that isn't horrible. There you go. Pretty badass, honestly. The art here is immensely good. It's very beautiful. But there's quite a lot of boobies. So, yeah. Fanservice wise, like I was saying, there's a shit ton. There is an like unnecessarily large amount of fanservice. This is a TNA series to the max. This is like ecchi as fuck, dude. Like, holy crap. Like, if you've ever read Witchblade and you thought that was kind of like unnecessarily full of boobs, this is like way worse than that. And I don't really care. Like, I enjoyed it, but I really can't justify it being like, you know, like any other series where I can justify that it's like, well, the story is good enough that like the fan service is just irrelevant, or anything like that. This is like, if you like fan service and pretty art, that's why you're buying this series, not because the story is good, right? The story is good enough, but it really is just to showcase the female characters that the manga created. So yeah, if you don't like fan service, if you like boobs or butts or gore or, you know, anything like that, do not read this. This is definitely not for you. So rating wise, this is a 3 out of 5. It's mediocre, mediocre makes it sound bad. It's average. It's middle of the road. It's enjoyable. I would watch it / read it. Like, I would watch it if it was a movie, like several times, And because it's easy to read, I would read it quite a few times as well. But it's not something that I need to revisit or something that kind of lives rent-free in my mind. It's just like, okay, I enjoyed it, it was cool, moving on. If I ever want to look at the art again, I'll flip through the pages, and that's that, right? It's fun, but not amazing. The art really carries the story for me. Like, it was good, but it wouldn't have been as good if the visuals weren't there to support it, right? So yeah, I definitely recommend this title if you like good art, and obviously if you can speak Spanish. But if you can't, you can definitely still buy it, so go for that. But I definitely think it's a fun series to read, and if you really like art, you'll probably really enjoy this, right? So yeah, I don't really have any similar titles to recommend. Like, I can't really think of anything that is like this that isn't like also a comedy. So like, I don't think that there's anything I can really recommend that is similar enough to this with the same kind of tone to it, because this is like ecchi, but it doesn't have any of rom-com or comedy elements that the other things that I can kind of think of that are similar to this do have. Like To Love Ru, right? To Love Ru has some of this kind of vibe, or Yuna and the Hot Springs, or Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs. Both of those have similar kind of like unnecessarily over-the-top ecchi elements to them and supernatural aspects, but those are comedies. This is really not a comedy. This is at best a drama. So I can't really say that they're similar, but if you like similar kind of art directions, I guess To Love Ru and Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs would be kind of similar here. So yeah. But that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.